August 5, 1962. Marilyn Monroe's bedroom, Brentwood, Los Angeles. When police finally arrive at 3:30 in the morning, they search the room, they photograph the scene, they document evidence. Empty pill bottles on the nightstand, the telephone clutched in her hand, her naked body face down on the bed, but something is missing, something that should be there, something witnesses say was always on her nightstand or in her possession, a small red diary. A leather-bound notebook where Marilyn wrote everything, conversations with powerful men, secrets shared in pillow talk, details about Cuba and the mob and government conspiracies, names, dates, specifics, the diary that could destroy presidencies and end political careers. It's gone, vanished sometime between when Marilyn was last seen alive and when police arrived hours later. Who took it? Why? What was in it that made it dangerous enough to steal from a death scene? And did the contents of that diary get Marilyn Monroe killed? This is the story of the most dangerous notebook in American history, the red diary that disappeared, and the secrets it contained that might have been worth murdering for. The diary wasn't a secret. Marilyn talked about it openly with friends. She told them she was writing everything down, every conversation, every revelation, every secret that powerful men shared with her, thinking she was too dumb to understand or remember. But Marilyn wasn't dumb. She was many things, damaged and addicted and desperate, but she was never stupid. She understood exactly what these men were telling her, and she knew that knowledge was power, maybe protection, maybe insurance. If they tried to discard her, destroy her, silence her, she had evidence. She had proof. She had their words in their own voices preserved on paper. She called it her insurance policy, her protection against the men who used her. But insurance policies only work if you're alive to use them. And on August 5, 1962, that insurance policy disappeared along with her life. The diary was small, pocket-sized, red leather cover. Some witnesses describe it as more of a notebook. Others say it looked like an appointment book. But everyone agrees it was red and she kept it close. She wrote in it constantly, after phone calls with important people, after intimate encounters, after conversations where she learned something significant. She had good shorthand from her brief time as a secretary. She could write quickly, capture conversations almost word for word. She was documenting her life, her relationships, the things she was learning. She told friends she was writing a tell-all book someday, about Hollywood, about the powerful men she'd been with, about the Kennedy brothers, about what really happened behind closed doors. The diary was her raw material, her evidence, her truth preserved in her own handwriting. What was in the diary? Nobody knows for certain because it vanished and has never been found. But based on what Marilyn told friends and confidants, based on what people close to her knew she was documenting, we can piece together what those pages probably contained. Names, lots of names, men she'd slept with, powerful men, studio executives, producers, directors, politicians, the casting couch encounters, the transactional relationships, the men who used her and the men she used. All documented, but more importantly conversations, political conversations. John F. Kennedy talked to her about Cuba, about the Bay of Pigs invasion that failed, about tensions with the Soviet Union, about Fidel Castro, about plans and policies and problems. He shouldn't have been sharing these things with her. It was wildly inappropriate, a security risk, but powerful men have always underestimated women, especially beautiful women, especially women who play dumb. They assume beauty equals stupidity, they talk freely, and Marilyn listened and wrote it down. Robert Kennedy talked to her too, more than John. Bobby was the one designated to manage the Marilyn situation after JFK cut off contact. Bobby met with her multiple times in 1962. He tried to keep her quiet, keep her compliant, make sure she didn't go public about the affair with his brother, but in the process of managing her he talked to her about his work as Attorney General, about going after organized crime, about the mob, about union corruption, about Jimmy Hoffa and the Teamsters, about Sam Giancana and the Chicago outfit. These were sensitive investigations, dangerous investigations. Men had been killed for knowing less, and Bobby was sharing details with Marilyn Monroe. Why? Maybe to impress her, maybe because he underestimated her, maybe because men in power get careless. Whatever the reason, Marilyn was learning things and writing them down. The mob connection was particularly dangerous. The Kennedy family had complicated ties to organized crime. Joe Kennedy, the father, had made money during Prohibition, some of it through legitimate business, some through arrangements with bootleggers and organized crime figures. Those connections continued. During the 1960 election, the mob helped Kennedy win key states. Sam Giancana, Chicago mob boss, claimed he delivered Illinois for Kennedy. The deal was simple: help us win. In return, we'll back off the investigations, we'll let you operate. But then Bobby Kennedy became Attorney General, and instead of backing off, he went after the mob harder than any Attorney General in history. He betrayed the deal. The mob was furious. They'd helped put the Kennedys in power, and now Bobby was trying to destroy them. That's dangerous, very dangerous. Marilyn knew about these connections. The Kennedys talked around her like she wasn't there, or like she couldn't understand. They shared things, and she wrote them down. Sam Giancana's name was probably in that diary. Details about mob involvement in the election, details about the mob's fury at being betrayed, details that could destroy the Kennedy presidency if made public, details that made Marilyn Monroe dangerous to very dangerous men. The mob didn't tolerate witnesses, didn't tolerate loose ends, and Marilyn Monroe, with her little red diary full of mob secrets, she was the definition of a loose end. But the most explosive material in the diary probably related to Cuba. The Bay of Pigs invasion in April 1961. The failed attempt to overthrow Castro using CIA-trained Cuban exiles. It was a disaster, an embarrassment. Kennedy took responsibility publicly, but privately he was furious. Furious at the CIA. Furious at the military advisors who told him it would work. There was talk of trying again, of a second invasion, of assassination attempts against Castro. The CIA was running operations. The mob was involved because they wanted their Cuban casinos back. It was a mess of illegal activity and government overreach and possible war crimes. And Kennedy talked about it. To Marilyn, pillow talk. Secrets shared in intimate moments, probably classified information, definitely politically damaging information, all written in Marilyn's diary. She also documented her relationship with both Kennedy brothers. The timeline, the encounters, where they met, what happened. This alone was politically explosive. JFK having an affair with a movie star while married, while president, that's a scandal, but both brothers, John and then Bobby, that's a catastrophe, that could bring down the administration. Jackie Kennedy's humiliation made public. The press would destroy them. Political opponents would use it. The Kennedy mystique would shatter. Bobby particularly couldn't afford exposure. He had a wife, 11 children by 1962. He was positioning himself for future political runs, maybe president after John. A public affair with Marilyn Monroe would end those dreams, so both brothers needed Marilyn quiet, and that diary with its documentation of their relationship was a threat, a weapon she could use if they pushed her too far. By summer 1962, Marilyn was becoming unstable. She was calling Bobby Kennedy constantly. He was avoiding her calls. She was threatening to go public, to hold a press conference, to tell the truth about her relationships with both Kennedy brothers. Friends heard her say this. Peter Lawford, the Kennedy brother-in-law who introduced Marilyn to JFK, he heard it. He warned Bobby, Marilyn is coming apart. She's talking about exposing everything. She needs to be managed. Controlled, silenced. How do you silence someone who has everything documented? Someone who has proof. You take the proof, you destroy the evidence, and if she won't give it up willingly, you take it by force, and if she's still a threat after you take it, you eliminate the threat permanently. The timeline of August 4th and 5th, 1962 is crucial and suspicious. Multiple witnesses place Bobby Kennedy in Los Angeles that day despite official records claiming he was in Northern California. He was seen at Marilyn's house that afternoon. There was an argument. Marilyn was upset, hysterical. Bobby left. Hours later, Marilyn was dead, and the diary was gone. The timing is too convenient. The man she was threatening to expose shows up. They argue, she dies. Her evidence disappears. It's either the unluckiest coincidence in history, or it's murder made to look like suicide with evidence cleaned up. Eunice Murray, Marilyn's housekeeper, changed her story multiple times over the years. Initially, she said she didn't know anything unusual happened. Later, she admitted Bobby Kennedy was there, admitted there was an argument, admitted the timeline didn't make sense. Why did she lie initially? Who told her to lie? Who pressured her to cover up Bobby Kennedy's presence? Murray knew something. She was there. She saw things, but she was scared or paid or threatened. She protected the Kennedys for decades. Only near the end of her life did she start admitting fragments of truth, but by then it was too late. Evidence was gone, memories were unreliable, the truth was buried under decades of lies. Dr. Ralph Greenson, Marilyn's psychiatrist, he was there that night too. He broke the window, entered the room, found her dead. What did he see? What did he take? What did he hide? Greenson was devoted to Marilyn, but he was also connected to powerful people, had powerful patience, understood how Hollywood and politics worked? Would he have protected the Kennedys? Would he have removed evidence to prevent scandal? Or was the diary already gone by the time he arrived? These questions matter. Because if Greenson saw the diary and didn't report it missing, he was covering up. And if it was already gone, that means someone else took it before the official discovery of the body, which means the scene was tampered with, which means this wasn't a simple suicide. The police investigation was shockingly inadequate. They didn't secure the scene properly, didn't catalogue evidence thoroughly, didn't question witnesses aggressively. Why? Incompetence or instruction? Were they told to keep it simple? Suicide, don't dig deeper, don't ask questions, close it fast, move on. The Kennedy name had enormous power, the presidency had enormous power. If someone in authority wanted the investigation limited, it would be limited, and that appears to be what happened. A cursory investigation, a quick ruling, probable suicide, case closed, the diary missing, not mentioned in official reports, not investigated, just gone, as if it never existed. But it did exist. Too many people saw it, knew about it, heard Marilyn talk about it. You can't erase something that many people witnessed. So where did it go? The most likely scenario is Bobby Kennedy's people took it. Either Bobby himself during that afternoon visit, or someone sent later to clean up before police arrived. The missing hours are crucial. Marilyn probably died around 11 p.m. or midnight based on rigor mortis and body temperature. Police weren't called until after 3:30 a.m. That's 3 to 4 hours unaccounted for. What happened in those hours? Phone calls were made, not to police. To whom? Peter Lawford probably. Maybe Bobby Kennedy directly. What were they doing? Cleaning, removing evidence, making sure nothing incriminating remained. The diary would be priority one. Find it, take it, destroy it. Protect the Kennedys at all costs. Another possibility is the FBI took it. J. Edgar Hoover collected dirt on everyone. It was his insurance policy, his way of maintaining power. He had files on the Kennedys, on their affairs, on their mob connections, on their indiscretions. A diary documenting all of this. Hoover would want it, would order agents to secure it, either before Marilyn died or immediately after. The FBI was probably surveilling Marilyn already, watching her phone, maybe watching her house. They would have known she was in trouble, would have been positioned to move fast, take the diary, add it to Hoover's collection of blackmail material. The Kennedys and Hoover hated each other. Bobby wanted to force Hoover out. Hoover wanted to destroy Bobby. Marilyn's diary would be the perfect weapon. Proof of affairs, proof of security leaks, proof of mob connections. Hoover would treasure it, use it, and never let it see public light because its value was in the threat, not the exposure. A third possibility is the mob took it. If the diary contained details about mob involvement in the Kennedy election, details about mob anger at being betrayed, the mob would want it eliminated. They couldn't risk it going public, couldn't risk further investigations. They had people in Los Angeles, had connections to Peter Lawford, could have sent someone to retrieve it. Or maybe they were already watching Marilyn's house, waiting for an opportunity. When she died or when they killed her, they searched. Found the diary, took it, destroyed it. Eliminated evidence of their connection to the Kennedys, and possibly to Marilyn's death itself. The truth is probably some combination. Multiple parties wanted that diary. Multiple parties had means and opportunity to take it. Maybe Bobby's people got there first. Maybe the FBI arrived shortly after. Maybe the mob was watching the whole time. In the chaos of that night, in those missing hours between death and police notification, multiple people could have entered the house. Multiple people could have searched. The diary could have changed hands several times. Or been photocopied before being destroyed. The Kennedy administration could have the original. The FBI could have copies. The mob could have burned their copies after confirming certain details were or weren't in there. We'll probably never know. What we do know is the diary contained explosive information. Information worth killing for. Information that threatened the most powerful people in America. And it vanished the night Marilyn died. That's not coincidence. That's evidence of cover-up. Evidence that her death wasn't simple suicide. Evidence that she was dangerous to powerful people because of what she knew and what she documented. The diary's disappearance is proof that something sinister happened that night. Because if it was just suicide, if there was nothing to hide, the diary would have been there, would have been catalogued as evidence, would have been mentioned in reports. Its absence screams cover-up, screams conspiracy, screams murder. Has anyone ever come forward claiming to have the diary? No, not credibly. Over 60 years, con artists and attention seekers have claimed to possess it or know where it is. None have produced it. None have provided verifiable proof. The most likely explanation is it was destroyed shortly after being taken, burned, shredded, eliminated completely, too dangerous to keep, too explosive to hold. Whoever took it probably destroyed it immediately after confirming what was in it. Or maybe it's locked in a vault somewhere, FBI archives, CIA storage, a private collection of someone very powerful. Maybe it will surface someday after everyone involved is dead, after the secrets no longer matter, after time has erased the danger, but probably not. Probably it's ash. Probably it was destroyed within hours of Marilyn's death. Probably the secrets it contained died with her. What would we learn if the diary surfaced today? Details of the Kennedy affairs, confirmation or denial of murder conspiracy theories, information about government operations in the 1960s, mob connections, CIA activities, a window into Marilyn's inner life, her thoughts, her fears, her understanding of what was happening to her, her voice preserved in her own handwriting. It would be historically invaluable, would rewrite the narrative of her death, would confirm what many have suspected for decades, that she was murdered, that she was silenced, that powerful men eliminated a threat and covered it up. The diary is the missing piece, the evidence that would turn conspiracy theory into documented fact. But it's gone, hidden or destroyed, lost to history, and with it the truth about what really happened to Marilyn Monroe. The diary that could have saved her instead disappeared with her. The insurance policy that was supposed to protect her became evidence of why she needed to be eliminated. She thought documentation would keep her safe, thought having proof would make her untouchable. She was wrong. It made her more dangerous, and danger attracts elimination. The diary was her greatest weapon and her death sentence. She wrote down too much, knew too much, documented too much. And powerful men don't tolerate women who know their secrets. They tolerate them as long as those women are compliant, silent, controlled. But the moment a woman threatens to speak, threatens to prove, threatens to expose, she becomes expendable. And Marilyn, with her little red diary full of presidential secrets and mob connections and proof of everything, she was the most expendable threat in America. August 5, 1962, the diary disappeared. Marilyn Monroe died, and the truth was buried with both. Somewhere, maybe in a vault or a file box or turned to ash decades ago, that red leather notebook still exists or existed. The most dangerous document in American history, the proof of conspiracy, the evidence of murder, the voice of a woman who knew too much and was silenced for it. We'll probably never find it, never read it. Never know with certainty what Marilyn wrote in those pages, but its absence tells us everything. It tells us she was right to be afraid, right to document, right to understand she was in danger, and it tells us that danger was real enough to kill her for.